Hey, we got another week given to
What's
us.
up? Big Monday.
Big Monday
A lot of
because it
stuff
was a
to get into.
huge weekend.
hmm
A lot going on. But hey, as we were talking off the air, there are people complaining about our boxing content as if we don't know what the hell we're talking about. I don't think we're like a lot of people who just say things for the hell of it. I think we've done enough talking about boxing in one way or another, or participating one way or another in the boxing game, whether writing about it, participating, managing, or whatever, even training to where we have an idea, if nothing else at all. And not only that, the people we bring in, like Coach. I mean, come on, this dude fought, and this guy still trains fighters. And his boxing knowledge, by the way, that's like underrated. But then you get people coming after us as if we just throwing things at the wall for effect when we're bringing the real points and real arguments, and all you can do is yell, complain, and eventually call names, but not coming with a solution of telling us where we're wrong.
I just think it's highly comical that some guy comes in there commenting that we're trolling him when he's commenting on our video. If he doesn't
Unbelievable.
if he doesn't comment, we have no idea who this guy is. We will have no idea of his existence. So how the hell are we trolling him?
Exactly.
Plus, he commented on a video where we picked Tommy Hearns to beat Floyd Mayweather, and he's saying we don't know anything about the '80s. Do you know how to comprehend the words you hear? Are you paying attention, or are you just typing just to type to get a rise out of people?
The real
If
troll.
you want, I mean, come at me. I'll bring it. You'll be sorry because I turn a lot of people who think they're men into sissy ass pussies.
Yeah, and especially the ones who start name calling because they don't have anything else to do, specializing and majoring in name calling when it comes to the fight game or
Well,
anything else.
that's the
Bring it.
first chink in your armor because you either don't have the mental capacity to state your argument correctly, or you don't have the facts to back up your idiotic stance.
And that's what it is, an idiotic stance. But we'll wait for the idiot on another day or a little later because, as we talked about just coming in here, a huge week of sports, college football in particular, NFL football in particular. So we have two particulars. The bottom line is this was an exciting week and so much has happened, obviously. So we're going to talk about it right now. And we can start off with Alabama. College football comes first, came on Sunday, actually, Saturday, came on Thursday, actually, with
Saving
Miami
my
winning the
mind,
Super
think about
Bowl.
retiring as bad as they look Saturday.
Who? Oh, Saban.
Saban.
Wow, unbelievable the way things went for Alabama. You know, I thought this would be the game if you were going to test out some new quarterbacks. This would be the game to do it. This is a lesser team, and this is exactly what they were. They lost to Western Kentucky. They beat FAMU and struggled to do that. And then they come into Alabama, comes into Tampa, and we have all of this talent, even with the bad quarterbacking situation. They come to Tampa and almost get upset. They can't score for a long time. Yeah, the storm was there, but this is a team. Storm or no storm, you should be so far ahead before the first raindrop comes down that the storm is incidental. But it wasn't
I,
like
I, I forgot about the storm. They were losing until the lightning strike. I think Saban called for it. He's like, "Hey man, we need something to break this momentum." South Florida, they're kind of on the I won't say on the road, or else they would have had 20 points or something. But they did have momentum. Bama was struggling offensively, and it was like Arancha Sanchez going to the bathroom for 20 minutes against Venus back in the day. Just had to break it up. Like, we got to put an end to this.
bro, you
Um,
were way back on that one, man.
man, I don't know. I mean, obviously Saban can't call for lightning, but I'm just saying. I think that lightning struck at the perfect time for Bama because they were struggling, man.
They had to get their bearings about this. Alabama, obviously, the superior team. We don't have to even argue about that.
hmm
South Florida should not have been in the same stadium with them, and that was their home stadium. They're sharing it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've been to that stadium several times. I've had a friend of mine play for South Florida, and we watched him when he was there. Nice stadium, by the way. But Alabama, the thing about it, I've always said it from the beginning, before the season started, why not have Tyler Buckner, the transfer from Notre Dame, start because he knows the offense of Tommy Reese, the offensive coordinator who came from Notre Dame. It seemed like the right thing to do. It seemed like the natural thing to do. But as I found out on Saturday, probably along with a lot of other people, he wasn't brought in, Tommy Reese, as the offensive coordinator to bring in his offense from what he had at Notre Dame. the thing that made Nick Saban say, "Hey, I think I like what you're doing. Once you come over here," he was brought in to execute Nick Saban's offense that he already had in place. Nick Saban's a defensive guy. What is he doing with an offense?
I don't know. That sounds funny to me. Come over here. I want you to be my OC, but here's the offense. You install my offense, or it's already installed. You just call the plays. Uh, I don't know, but it depends too. We're not there in practice. We don't see what's going on in practice. Maybe he doesn't look very good, or I don't know. Maybe they just don't have confidence in him. Either way, they're struggling, and they dropped to 13, I think it was,
Yeah,
and
13.
deservedly so. I thought Saban was going to come out guns blazing. He's tired of Georgia winning. He wants his championships back. He's the big dog on the block,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not getting off to a good start. They got some problems to fix down there.
But he doesn't have Jalen Hurts. We knew what Jalen Hurts could do. He doesn't have Tua. We knew what Tua had done. He damn sure doesn't have Bryce Young, the first pick in the draft overall, going to the Carolina Panthers. He's missing the key cog for the key position on offense or on a team period at quarterback. There isn't any stability. I don't think there's too much quarterbacking potential outside of probably Ty Simpson, who does have that pedigree of being that kind of quarterback, but he doesn't have the experience. Jalen Moreau, I tell you what, I almost have to apologize for saying how bad he was. That offensive line is horrendous. Now, I don't believe Jalen Moreau is a long-term solution for any team throwing the football. I think as a running back or a much more running quarterback than passing, he would certainly fit the bill. But when Tyler Buckner got in there, from what I saw at the Gator Bowl that I had gone to last December, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, MVP of the Gator Bowl. He was nothing like that. He was awful, even worse than Jalen Moreau going against a team like South Florida. Ty Simpson did him well. He did better than them statistically, but he didn't look too much better. But this offensive line that they talked so much about before the season and even now, they compare them to NFL lines. They're as big as an NFL line. In fact, they're bigger than an NFL line. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. I remember I talked about Caden Proctor coming in from Iowa, being as big as he is, the number one offensive lineman in the class. And what happens? Nothing. They're just big. They can run block, but they can't pass block. They were sacked 5 times.
Yeah, that's a big concern. You would think with all the talent they bring in to Tuscaloosa, they should be able to find 5 guys that can block halfway decent. That they have problems down there that they have to correct, and they got to get them fixed quick. Conference plays coming up, and they may have an easy game here or there, but they're Alabama. Everybody's coming for Alabama, so
Yeah,
I wouldn't say they're going to have any easy games if they don't get these problems fixed, corrected.
that was a prime example of everyone getting up for Alabama because if South Florida can get up for Alabama, and regardless of the circumstances with weather and otherwise, and even the bad quarterbacking situation Alabama has right now, South Florida still should not be on the same field with Alabama in any capacity, even if it's
Mhm.
their own home field. They shouldn't even be out there. It should have been Alabama having a scrimmage. But the way it turned out, Alabama's quarterbacking circumstance and situation is so bad. Their offensive line right now is so bad, pass blocking. They could run block. Alabama got over 200 yards rushing, I believe, so they can still run block, but you still only got 17 points out of the deal. South Florida was able to run on you, by the way. They had 177 yards rushing themselves. Not exactly an SEC defense, but once again, kind of like the Jets, who we're going to probably talk about a little bit later in terms of if the defense is out there so long, there isn't too much you can do, regardless of how good they are, if they don't get any rest. And if you're having 3 and outs and interceptions and fumbles and all these things, then the defense is constantly out there. The
Right.
talent is going to dwindle because it's tired, not because it's not talented. And South Florida being amped up, being at home, and having things just go their way for the meantime, was able to take advantage.
Yeah, it's very difficult to be on the field. Maybe 75% of the time, you get a 3 and out. You go grab a quick drink of water or the Gatorade, whatever
Yep.
drink they have, and you're like, damn, the pun units out there already. You got to put your helmet on and get ready, get back out there, and that's very frustrating too. And then a defense could be dominating, playing very well, and then one mistake, it's an 18-yard pass. Now the offense has momentum, and you're frustrated because you've been out there most of the day, and people, human nature is for people to get disheartened. Like, man, how long can we keep this up? Like, and they get another stop, and then there's a pick six or a turnover in the red zone, and now you got to go out there and stop them from the 19. I mean, that gets very frustrating,
Yeah.
and it's hard to be successful under those circumstances.
And I also think that it causes dissension in the locker room because the defense know they're playing their heart out and they don't get a chance to rest. They got to feel a certain kind of way about that offense that's taking away from their ability to get rest and go out fresh and dominate like they're supposed to do, as the talent dictates they should do. And we know Nick Saban, being the defensive coach he is, he has those guys ready, but no one can get them ready for this. Running sprints for the entire practice, doing gases is probably going to get them ready for this. But then you don't have a game plan. You got to do something. And you have these two quarterbacks. I mean, between Ty Simpson and Tyler Buckner, they both. I mean, two of them, both of them. Jalen Moreau didn't even get a chance to play, and I bet he was on the sidelines laughing at this because they went 10 for 23, just 107 yards between them. He's done better than that. And I tell you, I constantly came on here saying he's just not a quarterback. Well, neither are they. And now he's getting the nod for the Ole Miss game, another game Alabama can lose. Yeah, they'll be in the confines of Tuscaloosa at home, but we've seen Texas come in there. And by the way, does this take away from Texas at all, knowing now how bad Alabama really is offensively? Does it take away from Texas? I don't think they should drop in the rankings because of it, but I don't. Do you look at Texas any differently now? Say, oh wow, that wasn't upset.
Or could it, or it could, someone could argue that that's the effect of having to play Texas. They got their ass handed to them, and they're still licking their wounds.
Well, I mean, just talking from the standpoint of how good Texas really is, because
I,
when they
I
beat
know what you're
Alabama,
saying,
we
but
just assume,
I'm
wow, they're
saying
great.
one could argue Bama didn't look good against Southern Florida because they're still licking their wounds from that ass kicking
Yeah, that's
Texas game.
probably true. Probably true too. But you know
I
what? Like
mean,
you
if
said, you
we,
expected Nick Saban to come out guns a blazing, his team with revenge on their mind. We're going to take care of this poor lamb right here because that's what South Florida is supposed to be, the lamb. And you have the lion, and it didn't work out that way. They had to fight
but
tooth and nail to
let,
get out
let's
of
be
Tampa with a
let's
win.
be fair though. Let's be fair though. Georgia didn't look so great either on Saturday.
Oh, we'll get around to Georgia. Georgia didn't look good either. The only thing keeping Georgia as the number one team is because they do have those 2 seasons, even though so many players have left that program. And also, this is a result of what happens with major teams. And now the new era with the transfer portal. I'm not even talking about NIL. We're talking the transfer portal when now you have a whole bunch of NFL players leaving Alabama, and now people who don't get their way leaving Alabama because of the transfer portal. People who are probably the next man up, but just couldn't wait. And they know there's another opportunity at another top team. If you're not going to play at Bama at number one or number two, well, you can still go to a top 5, top 10 team and still fit right in if you're that good. But some of these guys don't want to wait. But George is on doing some of the same thing. 25 players going to the NFL draft over the last 2 drafts. And that first one in 2021, what was it, 2022 draft, they had 5 players all on defense, including the number 1 pick overall, and Trayvon Walker going in the draft. And we could see that defensively they're not the same. They've dropped a bit, and you can only expect that kind of thing. But yeah, Alabama having the issues they had with South Florida last Saturday down in Tampa. Now they bring in Jalen Milroe. And I also remember Nick Saban saying, well, they asked, why is Ty Simpson getting in for the second half? He said, because he had the best week of practice. I would assume if you had the best week of practice, shouldn't you have been the starter? But it didn't matter. Both of them did what they did. And Jalen Milroe, maybe for the rest of the season, will start against Ole Miss as they do musical quarterbacks. Now I see why they wanted Tyler Van Dyke from Miami, but luckily he stayed in Miami.
Yeah, lucky for you. I
Yeah,
guess lucky for
damn
me
sure lucky
too
for me.
if they keep winning. So
Yeah, and Tyler Van Dyke in the beginning of the season, I was just talking about against Miami of Ohio, how I was worried about him throwing the ball to the outside. His arm strength didn't look like it was there. I'll stay quiet now. Hopefully these things keep up. But that's what's going on now with Alabama, and Miami's going to be Miami. They're moving up, I think 20 now. But
it could just be talent is spread out across the country now. just like the mid majors in college basketball,
The
mid
parity.
majors, yeah, a
Mhm.
lot of mid majors are dangerous as hell nowadays, man.
Yeah,
I'm not sure you can even call them mid majors, and it could be with the transfer portal. Um, the other teams are getting their share of talent as well. Why sit on the bench or why redshirt when you can go play and be on the field at another school? So it could be talent levels are evening out some. You're
I'm
still going
thinking.
to have a couple teams dominate here and there, but I don't see teams dominating week in week out, winning by 45, 52-10, or like in the old days.
Well, I think when you're basketball talking about the basketball team doing a lot of that with the transfer portal, I think specifically the transfer portal with them, we could already see what St. Peter's did just a couple of years ago in the NCAA tournament. And that team was decimated at the end. Not only did their coach leave, the entire roster pretty much left. And they had absolutely nothing last season. But yeah, it's the transfer portal. But as far as going back to Alabama, Alabama saw it important to have a players only meeting. What do they what can they change at that players only meeting? I think the theme from what I've read was togetherness. Where did that togetherness fall off? Was it them looking ahead, thinking they're Alabama, thinking that teams just cower because it's them? A team like South Florida should have cowered because it was Alabama. They shouldn't have gotten up for them because it was a challenge. This team meeting, is it going to spawn wins after this?
That remains to be seen, but I think it's a good call on whoever called for the team meeting. It's obviously there's some leadership there among the players that they're not happy with the way things are
Mm-hmm.
going, and they're like, "Hey, we got to fix this ship, get us back on course." So I'm not a Bama fan. I hope they lose to all the rest of their games, but it's not going to happen. But as far as the team meeting, I think some good could come out of it. Maybe there's some kids who maybe not focused, and now they're all on the same page, and that could only help if they are on the same page.
And now with Lane Kiffin coming up there and playing on Saturday with his old mischarge, I can see them thinking that Bama is down, knowing that Bama is deficient at quarterback. There isn't anything Bama could do to change what's going on at the quarterback position other than take the best of what the three are, which may be Jalen Moreau, and just run with him. You can't do anything else with him. He's still not that good a passer. He's still an excellent athlete. He can run the ball. But Ole Miss does have the athletes to a degree to match up with Alabama. They've beaten Alabama before. And this is the first time in a long time that Alabama hasn't had quarterbacks who could bail them out. And this is a situation when I don't see any three of these guys doing anything. Ole Miss has a real shot, a live dog. We'll see firsthand what this team meeting is going to do for the team on Saturday when they play Ole Miss. But there's another team out there, as we already know, we've been talking about them for quite some time, ever since Coach Prime stepped on the scene and said, I'm coming. He's there. He's there at Colorado. Colorado State came in, big game. Fox and ESPN thought it was important to be there. The Rock thought it was important. You had celebrities all over the field, and it was a close game. Prime might have lost this game. His team, well, let's not call it Prime only. The team almost lost this game, double overtime, but a thriller nonetheless. They win the game, but we saw some serious kinks in the armor. Some of the kinks I've already seen begin with. The run defense still a problem.
Mhm. Yeah, I think when they're not going undefeated, when they
No,
lose, it's going to be because of their defense. But you mentioned quarterbacks who can pull you out of situations. Man, Shador Sanders is the truth, man. That kid
turning
is
it
a
up,
baller.
turning it up.
It's no fluke. That kid, you can see his confidence, his presence, his poise, the way he throws the ball, he steps into it like he knows what he's doing back there. And that 98-yard drive when they needed it, come on,
Ice.
man. The ice water's in his veins. That kid is bad as hell, man. That's a bad dude.
And as good as that game was, Colorado State needs credit for that. I know I talk about the element of the rivalry sometimes of game teams that are playing either in state or even traditional rivalries that may not even be in state. You know, Georgia, Florida, they aren't in the same state, but it's a heck of a rivalry. But then you have Alabama, Auburn in the state, a heck of a rivalry. Colorado State wasn't that team. or weren't supposed to be that team, at least not against the Buffaloes, but they showed up and they came and put pressure on this team. They made things happen. They made it dirty. Travis Hunter out for a couple of weeks with a dirty hit, a nasty dirty hit after the
Mhm.
ball was already bouncing on the field. He gets hit. So that's another thing, because I was about to say, after all this is said and done, you've said it already, and I don't think it's something that's a secret. Colorado is not going undefeated this season. In fact, I believe this Saturday starts their 2-game losing streak, going up to Eugene, Oregon to take on the Ducks. Bo Nix is one of those quarterbacks, unlike your man down in Nebraska. He can
Jeff
actually throw
Sims.
the ball and run the ball. Bo Nix has been in the SEC before. He transferred from Auburn. And he went to Oregon, and he can throw the ball and run the ball. And we know Oregon runs the ball. We know those West Coast teams pass the ball as well. That RPO is going to be in full effect in Eugene. Whichever ugly uniform they decide to wear that day, that's going to be the uniform they use while they beat Colorado and give them their first loss. And then, of course, USC is so talented with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner coming to town, Caleb Williams, the following week in Boulder. I know all the hype and so forth, but they can run the ball and they can pass the ball. Hey, they're not going to defeat it. I'm just going to call the shot right now. They're going on a 2-game losing streak. We'll just sit on that. But as far as
That should be a heck of a matchup, man. Caleb Williams against Shador Sanders, man.
This may be for the Heisman for right now.
It might be a 60-57 game or 63-56.
Whatever you're dealing with, taking the over. Take the over in that game. But now,
I want to speak to Colorado State and that hit on Hunter.
Filthy.
What's that?
It was filthy.
Dirty hit. Yeah, it was filthy. And I gotta believe that's coming from the top. Now I'm not saying he's going that Norvell said go out there and take cheap shots, but there's being physical and then there's being dirty. That was egregious, man. That hit, the ball hit the ground. He took like another 3 steps before he lit him up. That I'm surprised the Buffalo sideline didn't just attack him, jump his ass.
I tell you. And this is what I was talking about before the season.
But I give that one referee credit. He put himself in front of that defender and kept everybody else around him. But if he didn't, who knows what would have happened? It could have popped off and they could have fought again. But I think that's all from Norville, man. Your players don't go out there and do dirty hits unless you're telling them it's okay. And again, I'm not saying he's telling them to take cheap shots, but if they don't feel any repercussions are coming, they're going to do whatever they want to do. Well, take a cheap shot. Coach ain't going to do nothing.
I think Jay Norvell knows that's a bad look. I don't know if it came from the top.
I don't think he cares.
But I think that this might have been one of those in-state rivalry things. Of course, we don't know Colorado versus Colorado State and how the rivalries are going inside of a state like Colorado, which is in a football-dominated state like most southern states and some of these Midwestern states. So I think the emotions of young players really got into it more so than Jay Norvell probably.
But you don't see that when Alabama plays Georgia, when Texas plays Oklahoma. You think those coaches would stand for it?
But they're not overmatched. This team was overmatched.
But they had 10 personal foul penalties, man. That's ridiculous.
It could look like they came from the top, but I'm just saying from an emotional standpoint, this is all you're hearing about. Not only are you hearing about this today or that day of the game, you heard about it leading up to the game. You heard about Deion Sanders when he came in. You knew you were playing them. People act like Colorado State didn't even exist, until the game. And then I think the emotions might have gotten the best of these guys. These are still 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds whose emotions can get away from them. I don't know and I think Coach probably turned a blind eye. But
I saw a report. He's being accused that he had bounties on Colorado players. I didn't bother reading it.
I can't vouch for. We've heard of that. I didn't
bother reading it, but I mean, that's how bad it looked. 10 personal foul penalties.
Yeah.
Late hits on the quarterback, late hit on the receiver, out of bounds too, and the ball bounced already. Man, that team, there was like the Detroit Pistons.
The bad boy, nasty boys, the bad boys, the nasty boys, all of that. Baseball.
Yeah, just taking cheap shots because you're not as talented as the other team.
Yeah, and
that's what they were doing.
and they bounced the tables. I don't think they got in their head psychologically, but they did man for man make it happen to where they had to go to two overtimes to win the game. And of course, they won a thrilling game. And right now, not only because of the hype, I think even because of the production, Shador Sanders, number one right now as the Heisman Trophy favorite. So I can see
Right.
that.
The funny thing to me is Coach Prime, he outcoached Norvell also.
Yeah,
When that game goes to overtime and Colorado scores right away, I'm saying to myself, Norvell better go for two. If they score a touchdown, they need to go for two. Just go for it right now. You're not gonna go back and forth. Man, Shador Sanders, he just went 98 yards and a 2 point conversion. He's hot. You think he's not gonna punch it in the end zone? Go for two, try and win it right there. No, he didn't have the balls to go for it. Kicks the extra point, and the game was over. It,
and I don't think Deion Sanders gets enough credit for his X's and O's. He's a smart coach and he's a smart player because he was a smart player first. And now he's learning. See, coaching is different, especially in college as opposed to the pros. In college, yeah, you can bring in all of your talent, whereas in the pros, you can't do that. You have free agency, you have this, even though there is NIL and there is the transfer portal, it's kind of sort of free agency, but it isn't like the NFL. You can just hoard your talent in college, and especially if you're in the lower levels or if you're playing the lower level teams like a Colorado State, you're going to have more talent. But he's already proven that he knows the X's and O's. He knows how to prepare a team. I know he went down to Jackson State, which is an HBCU, in the SWAC. He didn't win a championship there. He did have more talent, though, than all of the other teams. His last opportunity at a championship down in the HBCU with the Celebration Bowl, he lost to South Carolina State. And there was just a bunch of little mistakes that were made. And it was still Shador not really reading defenses once they really came after him. That South Carolina State team was good at stopping the run. Somehow they were able to stop the pass that day. But then he moves on now to a Power 5 team where he has even more talent, relatively speaking, to what he had at Jackson State. And we're seeing him finally starting to go through progressions. He didn't do it against TCU. He dumped passes. And man for man, he had some better talent making those plays. The second game as well. Now this game, he read defenses. He made the clutch plays and ice water in the veins when it mattered. Yo, he's
yeah.
arrived. He's here.
Yeah, he's NFL ready. You
Yeah.
see him; he looks off the safety to get his receivers open. He does everything that great NFL quarterbacks do. He's doing it already. I haven't seen any draft boards, but he's got to be a top 10 pick, if not top 5. And it's only the third game. He's steadily rising, man. If I could buy stock in a college player right now, I'm buying Shador Sanders stock.
I
But
think by the
I
time
would have
they
gone
have
for
another
two. I would have gone for two. Another reason I would have gone for two is Colorado won the coin toss,
coin toss.
and 99% of the time they defend first.
Yeah.
Deion's like, no, we're gonna score. I ain't worried about are we gonna kick a field goal. We ain't kicking no field goal. We're
Yeah,
gonna
he was going
score.
for the win.
Right, we're gonna score a touchdown. We're gonna put pressure on you to score. So after that, like I'd been like, you know what? Sanders is rolling. We can't stop him. Let's go for two. We win and lose right here. And second time, Deion's like, we're gonna get this 2 point conversion. Man, Colorado State couldn't even score again.
So now we're going to get a chance to see what they are really about. This isn't the first game of the season with a team like TCU. Yeah, the runner-ups to the national championship game, but also let's not forget 65-7 was the final score in that game. And then going into that first game, they also returned less than 19% of their offensive production. So yeah, a completely different team than last year. Not really someone you could gauge Colorado with, a sight unseen with Colorado with all of the transfers they had. They won that game. They won game number 2. They just won that game number 3. Now you're playing a team that's already assembled, a team that has some type of history of being successful, especially in the Pac-10 and even nationally, the Pac-12 and nationally. That's Oregon. We're going to see what happens next week with that, or this Saturday with that game. I know people will be waiting. And there's another game that we could talk about now. Florida State, who used to be the number 3 team in the country, the team we watched and thought, wow, this team is serious and going to have something to really provide Alabama, Georgia, or whoever's in the top spot when the time comes. They scraped, clawed, and got out of Boston College, of all places, just barely. And it took 18 penalties by Boston College to lose the game. Not only that, they stopped Florida State with a minute and 30 left. and ended it with a face mask, a 15-yard face mask penalty is what blew it for them. And Florida State just kneels, gets the game over with. But man, Florida State went down as well, rightfully so. Could have been more than one spot, but I'll take the loss if you're going to be the loss. If you want Florida State and Miami try to meet up at least respectable, or at least one loss or two losses by the time they meet, so we can go check it out like we are.
Yeah, I was busy during the day Saturday, so I wasn't aware of the score at any point until I got home Saturday afternoon, maybe early evening, and I saw the score go across the bottom ticker. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, they barely survived Boston College." If I'd have known, if I'd have been home, I would definitely would have watched, and I'd have been sweating because you know my situation. I'm gonna be there for the Miami game in November. I need them to have the best records possible, and a loss to Boston College would throw a monkey wrench in my what I foresee as an incredible weekend.
Yeah, I watched the game and I was shocked. In the beginning, when Boston College was moving the ball, in the beginning, actually, Florida State was dominating them. And Boston College made a few plays here and there. But then, the weather had something to do with it. But still, Florida State is talented enough. They have leadership in the right spots, especially with Jordan Travis being their quarterback. We've seen his act and how well he can play. He just didn't have that day. And 212 yards against this Boston College team, which is not really expected to do much this year in the ACC, but they were there. And I tell you what, Thomas Castellanos, their quarterback, who I didn't give a lot of credit to initially, this guy came. Not only was he able to run the ball because he's one of those true athletic quarterbacks who can run and really throw the ball. He did that, and he did it to Florida State. 18 penalties. I mean, that's enough to get a coach fired, man, for a game like that. And man, the weather really mattered. But Florida State, talent for talent, it didn't really show. It wasn't like they were making bad plays. Boston kind of stepped up and was slowing them down and stopping them, and then stopping themselves with 18 penalties.
Yeah, I remember I mean. I'm reminded of what Larry Merchant used to say when a top level boxer wasn't looking very good,
Mm-hmm.
but was still winning. He's like, "Hey, win tonight, look good the next fight. I mean, hey, let's move on to next Saturday. We got this one out of the way."
Yeah, a big scare for Florida State, giving up over 400 yards in total offense. It's going to hurt in the stat sheet, but you know what? Bend but don't break. Still undefeated, still in the top four right now. And it's looking good for them because the only team I see as a possibility of beating them outside of Miami, and Miami's coming to Tallahassee, so that we already know what that rivalry provides. But North Carolina and Clemson, we already know these teams in the ACC, and Clemson's having their own struggles this year, trying to get back into the rankings, let alone just winning games. And so, yeah, Florida State just got away with one in the weather that time. And it gives us a chance to talk about another team from Florida. We don't have to talk about Miami. They played Bethune-Cookman. We don't even need to talk about that. A Thursday game, throw it away. When they start playing big boys again, we're definitely going to talk about it.
I'm glad they won, though.
Yeah, absolutely glad. I'm always glad when we can get a win. The Canes, man, beating Bethune-Cookman to me is not the national championship, but it's another W that we didn't get last season against other teams that we should have had. We're still undefeated. Things are looking good, looking up. Number 20 now. Miami's making some noise. Tyler Van Dyke may creep himself into the Heisman Trophy talk if he continues to play the way he's playing and the team continues to win only because he's playing that way. But Florida, the other team in the state of Florida, Florida State, Miami. Well, Florida having a rough year. Billy Napier is on the hot seat, even though he's not going to get fired. I don't think Dan Muller left him the talent. Obviously, he didn't. But they were able to beat number 11 Tennessee in the swamp. And the one thing about college ball, teams that haven't won for a long time, they seem to continue not being able to win for a long time. They haven't won in the swamp since 2003, regardless of what kind of team they have. The number 11 team in the country, even though this early in the season the rankings don't mean anything as much, the talent was there. Josh Heupel has this talent. He knows how to run this talent. But then what happens? He goes to the swamp and gets mugged by Florida, the biggest win in Billy Napier's tenure. And it's just 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. The talent levels, talent is more level. Even though Florida might be struggling, they're Florida. They still
Yeah,
get
that's
good
true.
talent there. So, and it's a conference game, and they have history, Florida and Tennessee. So the Gators, they're not just going to show up and go through the motions, and obviously they did it.
That electric atmosphere in the swamp. I'm not a Gator fan by no stretch of the imagination, and it has nothing to do with Miami. It has everything to do with Florida's fans, not even the team. And I've never been a Florida fan, but that swamp atmosphere at nighttime when they need a win and there's a rivalry like Tennessee, they delivered. The fans delivered just as well as the players delivered. They put a beating on Tennessee, and now Tennessee leaves again, another year not winning in the swamp, and Florida probably kickstart the rest of their season, and things may look better for them moving ahead. Because by the way, at the end of this month, the world's largest cocktail party here in Jacksonville, they're playing the Georgia Bulldogs. A lot of Georgia fans I know down here thinking it's going to be a runaway. Maybe this is the win that kind of puts Florida back on track and gives that confidence they need, and Billy Napier's coaching settles in so they're at least ready for Georgia. The odds makers are still going to have it in Georgia's favor if nothing catastrophic happens with Georgia in between time. But yeah, this may be it. It's still a rivalry, and there's been times when one team was favored by a lot and still lost the game. But Georgia this year in Florida, definitely something to watch. And I may just be there this time around. But
Yeah, Georgia may not be the same Georgia either.
no, it
Like I
isn't the same.
mentioned, they didn't look good against South Carolina.
And that's a nice segue to Georgia just beating South Carolina 24-14 in Athens. Carson Beck at quarterback looks okay. Just okay. The running game is very solid. The offensive line is always good at Georgia. They've always been putting running backs out for years. That should be running back you. But they were struggling against this South Carolina team. Spencer Rattler was looking very good in the beginning. I think he was even 8 for 8 in the beginning until he wasn't. And that's what you've been getting from Spencer Rattler since he left Oklahoma, even the reason why he left Oklahoma. Then he comes to South Carolina and the consistency isn't there. I'm a little worried about Georgia if I'm a Georgia fan because there's a 0 in the loss column. But if you watch the games, you can see that there's some flaws in that team. And I don't know.
They were down at the half, weren't they?
Yeah, I believe they were down at the half. And but this doesn't look Georgia. They had an aura about them last year and the year before, and of course it was Stetson Bennett, 2-time winner of the national championship. Now they're supposed to be more of a prototype quarterback, the prototypical quarterback that you would have in college, and that's Carson Beck with the experience of being redshirted and being on the team with Stetson Bennett the past 2 seasons, and 3 seasons really, and he's looking okay. He's not doing anything special out there, and I don't know if it's the receivers because I just don't know because Brock Bowers is still Brock Bowers and making huge plays. I just don't know what to think with this Georgia team. They're going to come around because Kirby Smart is that good a coach. They do have that top-notch talent still. This season's schedule is not as tough as last year's schedule, which I thought was a pretty easy schedule, relatively speaking, for an SEC team. So I think they may get away with another soft schedule into whoever they meet. Initially, we thought it would be Bama in Atlanta at the SEC championship game. It might be LSU. It might be Ole Miss. I don't know who it could be this time.
Yeah, they obviously took care of business in the second half, but I'm sure Coach wasn't happy with that first half performance. Going into the locker room down at the half, you're the number 1 team in the country, and if you're not playing the top 5 team, there ain't no way you should be down at the half. So I don't care who it is. If you're the number 1 team, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they're not the number 1 team, and we talked about that before.
You know what? And I think right now, because of them being the 2-time defending champs, they get more of the benefit of the doubt. And if you look at the eyeball test, you could probably make some arguments because
so we're 3 games in now. There's only so much benefit of the doubt you can give.
Well, you know what? To beat the champ, you have to be kind of sort of the champ because you'll only be number 1 is to beat the champ. And no one's done it, even though they've come close, but no cigar.
Yeah, but that's last year. There's no champ this year.
That's true. And they've lost a lot of players. But I think Michigan, if it were me voting right now, I would put Michigan, even with J.J. McCarthy throwing 3 interceptions the other day, I would put Michigan at number 1. And if Georgia played better, I wouldn't have any problem putting them at number 1, back at number 1. But right now, I think the consistency is coming from the 2, in my opinion, the 2 best teams. I know Texas fans may get upset, but after Alabama has shown their true colors, Is Texas really that good? They may be, but the two most constant and solid teams, in my opinion, is Notre Dame and Michigan. Michigan being the best, and Notre Dame being the number two, not number two team, but in terms of consistency and having stability at the position you need. Sam Hartman, we talked about him before this season, talking about him now, the experience he had with the ACC, the experience he had against teams like Clemson, like Florida State, which he was on a 3-game winning streak with before he transferred as a grad transfer, not a regular transfer portal, entry, with Notre Dame. The best quarterback Notre Dame's had in years, several years. And those two teams, and Ohio State's going to get a chance to prove if Notre Dame is the truth or not in Notre Dame this upcoming Saturday. But Michigan, Notre Dame, my two teams. Georgia just happens to be the team that's there right now. Texas, they can make their argument. Ohio State, I think they lose this Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. Notre Dame's been putting up numbers. That offense is firing on all cylinders right now, and it's gonna be a challenge for the Buckeyes. But our man Marvin Harrison, when the lights go on, let's see what he can do.
Yeah,
Marvin Harrison Jr. That is.
Yeah, he's our guy. We wanted him to win the Heisman. We want him to win the Heisman. And you know what? And if he does what he can do against Notre Dame and looks good doing it, I think in any capacity, if this guy gets 150 yards and just gets 3 touchdowns and is the reason for winning, that puts him seriously in the mix because he kind of fell off a little bit in the beginning. He had that little dinged up in the first game of the season, came back against a lesser team, getting big yards. But against Notre Dame, at Notre Dame, we already know all lights and all eyes will be on Notre Dame. And Ohio State is no slouch in terms of their fan base and people expecting a whole big thing from them. Yeah, but this is going to show both teams' colors. I just believe with Kyle McCord still getting used to that starting position, Devin Brown no longer looking an option at quarterback right now, at least while Kyle McCord is healthy. And then with with Marvin Harrison Jr., it's going to be something for Nebraska, a tall order. I think they're going to lose this game, but we'll have to wait and see that. But that would be the team I would have at number one. That would be Michigan, and Notre Dame would be in the top 4. I think they're worthy of it because of the stability at quarterback that many teams don't have. Now, that kind of transitions to this stability. That's what Michigan State doesn't have right now. Mel Tucker, as of today, has been terminated with cause from Michigan State. Well, we know why because we talked about it last week. The yogurt slinger against a rape victim or advocate, well, not advocate, but activist. And apparently they believe her more than they believe him because they've gone this far and gotten themselves out of this 10-year, $95 million contract that he just signed 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, they I'm sure they were investigating and they obviously got some sort of information that validates them terminating his employment there at Michigan State. They're not just going to do it just on allegations. So where there's smoke, there's fire. It seems that way anyway, and they'll be looking for a new coach. But who wants Mel Tucker now?
I don't think anybody's going to want Mel Tucker for the moment. He maybe have to go down to one of the HBCUs and kind of get his act together down there. And I don't think he ever comes back on the major stage like this. And I think the cause was a morality cause, like a clause like most contracts have, especially with that kind of money involved. He admitted to the masturbating part. That's the morality, I guess, involved. So if nothing else, you admitted to that. You're just saying the sticking point here is no, she agreed. It was consensual. She's saying it's not. And you know what it is today, society-wise. Me too, and she's always right. And right now, without her being right, she's right. Until we find out for sure she's right. And he's gone. And rightfully so. I didn't think he deserved that big contract. Anyway, that's another argument for another day. I just thought
I don't get
college to get that huge contract.
So if he admitted it, then he obviously did it, right? Why would he put himself in that situation? I don't get it.
Thinking with the wrong head. He's married. He has kids. I mean, I'm not getting on a soapbox of what he shouldn't do, what's moral, what isn't. Michigan State has decided what was moral, what wasn't moral. And him admitting to at least that part of it probably was that part that triggered that morality clause. And he's out of a job because of it and a whole lot of other things because I'm sure he's going to sue. It's going to be really it's going to go back and forth between he, her, and, of course, the lawyers. And We'll get more of this story dripping out as it continues to go on. She's probably going to get soiled a little bit more in this, but we're going to finally, see what this guy is about in terms of his morality, because that's what's going to end up happening. But yeah,
Yeah.
Mel Tucker out at Michigan State. And by the way, that's one of the games I picked. 16.5 point underdog. They should lose to Washington, but not get blown out. 41-7 says they got blown out. Ed East
Yeah.
Lansing came
Mel,
over.
Tucker told Northwestern to hold his beer.
Oh yeah, hold my beer because I'll be right back. Yeah, he'll be right back, all right. Just not in the college football coaching ranks.
Oh,
Unfortunate for him,
oh,
but
you guys got allegations here. Watch this.
yeah, right. Yeah, Big Ten stand up. That's pretty much what it comes down to, man. These guys are showing up in the wrong way. And Mel, see you later. So this gives us a chance, at least right now, with all of this time we have remaining, some of the time, to get into the NFL, because this was just as big an NFL weekend as well. The Cowboys giving the Jets the business. Why are the Jets the number one team to talk about right now? Because I think going into this game, it was highly anticipated on what Zach Wilson could do now that he had a chance to take over the reins completely from Aaron Rodgers, and he did as expected. 3 interceptions, Zach Wilson-esque, and a loss. Kept that defense out there for over 41 minutes because Dallas had it for 41 minutes. It's ridiculous, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. Carson Wentz, where are you? Is there a bat signal up there to bring for Carson Wentz to come into New York?
Yeah, Jets are in trouble unless they can bring somebody in who can get that offense under control without turning the ball over. They have to do a better job of running the ball too, though. I mean, that Dallas defense, that the pressure they put on the quarterback, and you have an inexperienced young quarterback who doesn't make good decisions. You gotta try and establish a running game. You can't put him in positions to make those mistakes that he pretty much shown that he makes all the time, right? So I think the coach staff needs to help him out until they get another quarterback in there.
This is his third season, so the inexperienced part is just doesn't apply to him. This is his third season. He only missed 4 plays because that's when Aaron Rodgers went down. So he was pretty much started this season. And now he's in this season. He's not showing any improvement. What is he doing in
He's
practice?
still a young quarterback, though.
Yeah, he's a young quarterback. When we see a whole bunch of young quarterbacks out there, and we see even some rookies this year. I mean, Anthony Richardson, even though I think he's a running quarterback and he's going to hurt himself as he did yesterday, running the ball, getting a concussion, he can read some defense.
That was his fault for slowing down. He slowed down and he got hit. If he
boys don't play the NFL, he's finding out.
Yeah, if he runs hard through the goal line, the guy's not going to be there to hit him. It's unfortunate, but I saw the play and I'm like, why is he slowing down? Oh, man.
Right.
I was like, hey, I bet you he don't slow down no more.
But as far as the running game goes with the Jets, when you have 8 guys in the box because they know your quarterback can't even exploit a defense, even if it's deficient in the secondary, as Zach Wilson proved, with the exception of getting that 1 touchdown to Garrett Wilson, the Wilson and Wilson connection, the nice law firm, much better than that football team. Other than that, I mean, the quick hitters he was doing, they figured it out. He couldn't do the quick hitters. He had to go back to reading defenses, which he can't read. He's just illiterate when it comes to reading NFL defenses, and we got that result. Bryce Hall was upset that he got the ball 4 times, but he was also tackled every time he had gotten the ball, got some losses, and they knew they can do that because whether they had 8 in the box or whether they had 6 in the box, Zach Wilson wasn't completing a pass with any consistency. And so I just think it's a bad situation to where the running back just can't do anything. They're overwhelmed. You bring in 2 tight ends, they're just going to still have these phenomenal athletes on the defense who can either get to the quarterback or stop the run. And we saw it often. And it just, man, Zach Wilson provides that type of thing for a running back. He doesn't give them any break. So they're going to be able to zero in on him because he hasn't taken advantage of a secondary, whether it's conventional or if it's a loaded box.
I want to talk about your Jacksonville Jaguars, man. What the hell happened? 9 points?
9 points. So many errors in that game. Look, Zay Jones at receiver, it's not that he's dropping passes. He's one of the better athletes out there. And when you're a receiver and you're an athlete as you are, you're supposed to have body control. That's part of being a great athlete. And when he caught the ball, he couldn't keep his feet in 2 times. He didn't bring his feet in twice. And then Calvin Ridley, at least when he caught the ball, but he ran into the goalpost. in an awkward way, and I can see how
I didn't
that
see that.
that man, that's the thing. I think his lower back may have some issues
Ooh.
over that because but there was opportunity there. The Jaguars had a chance, but Kansas City, doing it on the road, beating the Jaguars for the third time in the past year. Hey, this is a great quarterback we have here. As much shade as people try to throw on Pat Mahomes, he's still a
I,
great
I
quarterback.
thought I had the Jags winning. I thought
Me too.
Travis Kelsey's not going to be himself. The Kansas City wide receivers are suspect. Chris Jones is back, but is he in game shape
Oh
back?
God,
He
you
back?
harassed all day. You
Yeah,
never missed a day.
evidently he is back. But I just thought Jacksonville would put up more than 9 points. I mean,
Yeah, and
for them to hold Kansas City to 17, if you say that before the game, you think they have a
the
really good
Jags will
shot at
win.
winning.
Yep,
But
24-17. You would expect something like that.
right,
But
but they only scored 9 points. That I would be disappointed if I'm a Jaguars fan.
oh yeah, and they are. And look at Kansas City's defense. They played well too to keep that Jaguars offense. Trevor Lawrence, you know what? Hindsight, you could say that Trevor Lawrence didn't do anything. Watching the game, you could just see those mistakes that I was talking about, as far as the receivers not controlling their bodies well enough to stay in bounds in the end zone to catch the ball and be the reason why you could win this game. The running game couldn't get off either, and I just don't know what the deal is with the Jaguars yesterday. I mean, other than good defense, great defense for that matter. And so, yeah, let's not take anything away from KC
You know
because
what though, they kind of, I won't say struggled against Indy, but Indy, they were down against Indy. They had to
yeah, they
come
won.
from behind. So I would be really concerned as a Jaguars fan, man.
You know, I, a high end team like Kansas City, the defending Super Bowl champs with a Hall of Fame quarterback and play a Hall of Fame tight end. You're talking great players on that team. Coming into Jacksonville doing that, been there, done that. They always know how to find their way out of a bad problem because of the experience and because they're just that talented. And then you have other teams that will come in here, most of those teams being AFC South teams who aren't that good. Indianapolis hasn't won here in Jacksonville in how long? And then you still have the Texans and you still have the Titans who are trying to do something, still trying to find an identity because I believe this is kind of the beginning of the end with Derrick Henry being as dominant a runner as he's been, as they're pounding the hell out of him early and often. His yards per carry average isn't what it once was, and he's not as productive. He's just kind of keeping the chains moving a little bit or just milking the clock. Anyways, the Jaguars just didn't hold up their end of the bargain. I thought they were here.
I think they're in better shape than the Bengals. Joe Burrow re-injured his calf, it seems. They're talking about him sitting out against the Rams. Probably a good idea since he'll be having to try and evade Aaron Donald all day. I'm sure that's not good for your calf muscle.
It's bad for your
But
health.
if you got your backup quarterback in there, you could be 0-3. And
Yeah,
in
that's
a
true.
couple of weeks, they have Buffalo. Who else they have? They have Buffalo.
You talk the
I
Bengals.
can't remember, huh?
You talk the Bengals who they have coming up.
Yeah, who they have coming up. So if they start 0-3.
I tell you what,
They,
the Rams aren't going to be easy. The
that's
Rams are
right.
playing better this
Rams
season than
played
I
the
think they
49ers
play.
tough as hell yesterday.
Yeah, man. I was
So
like, even though
that's
it's
a
a home
real
game,
possibility that the Bengals are 0-3. And they got the Bills coming up. They got another tough game after that. I can't remember who it is.
well, the Bills are coming up in November, so at least they have some time to get Joe
Yeah,
Burrow
well,
back together with that calf before they start, and be kind of ready for him. But hopefully, in between time, they're
but I'm
0-2
just
right now.
looking ahead at their schedule. Then they get one break. I think it's Houston. Then they got the Ravens and Steelers back to back.
And then they're going to Baltimore this time, right? They're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
Baltimore
they
this
ready.
time.
They lost in Cincinnati this week to the Ravens, so it's gonna be a tough road ahead, man.
Don't look now, man, but I think Lamar Jackson might have gotten it together. He could read some defenses now. I mean, I don't know. Hey, this is Cincinnati. It is a road game. It is a division foe. And this guy was reading defenses left and right. His first inclination wasn't to run the ball, and his completion percentage was up there. His yards, Lamar Jackson, if he could play like this for the rest of the season, we're talking about he and Christian McCaffrey as offensive players of the year in the NFL, AFC, NFC. Bro, he played a hell of a game yesterday. And this is
He
the
looked better in the
Bengals.
pocket. Yeah, he
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
looked better in the pocket.
yeah.
Someone
24
who
with
didn't,
3.
someone who didn't look much better is Justin Fields.
Uh-oh. I know we had to go here. Where's Taps?
Well, you put him on the list. I don't really have to talk about the Bears.
I mean, well, I
Everyone
just
knows
wanted
the
your
Bears suck.
opinion about it for people who may be interested in your opinion about the Bears. I mean, as a Bears fan, you're not one of these guys that comes across as the homer that's going to still try to look at the silver lining.
But what can I
They're
say
one
that
of these
people
dudes.
don't already know? They suck.
But
They suck. They ruin quarterbacks. Justin Fields might have had the potential to be a really good all pro type of quarterback for a 10, 12-year period. But now, having Nagy getting sacked 9 times in Cleveland, running for his life last year, I don't know. He just hasn't shown much improvement. He said he was going to be more aggressive.
that's what I was about to say.
I saw him scan the field, check his progressions a few times, but not with any consistency. So I don't know. They started the game off throwing the ball to DJ Moore. They found him. Then he had 2 catches for like 49 yards,
Yeah.
and then they went away from him. They started throwing the ball to Claypool, and Claypool went in and apologized to the team for his terrible as he played game 1. He played so poorly he should have been deactivated, if not released. I mean, they called a smoke screen. He's supposed to block his man. His man pushed him into the receiver, and then he helped tackle the guy 5 yards behind the line. It
So he
was
gets a
terrible.
tackle.
Man. But he caught a touchdown. Ooh, man, he sucks. They need to get rid of him. Bears suck. There's not much else I can say about it. Justin Fields has not shown much improvement.
Like Zach Wilson.
That's about it.
But DJ Moore got his 100 yards yesterday.
But they're gonna have a lot of cap space, so hey, watch out, free agency, baby, next year.
Hey, DJ
High
Moore.
draft pick, maybe we get Shador Sanders,
Nah.
and then
Oh, man, that
they
wouldn't be
can ruin
smart,
him
but
too. And then
oh
Prime
my
would come be the coach to fix him.
yeah, that would be something else that they could bring Shador in there because Shador also is showing that he's not one of these guys looking to run. He's not. I don't think you would say he's not athletic, but he's one of these guys who tries to be a cerebral
You know
quarterback.
what though?
He reads defense or
But
tries to.
he did run in that 98 yard drive when they were putting everybody back. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna drop
Oh yeah, yeah.
everybody?
Anytime you're
I'm
gonna
gonna
play
run
man,
for this first down."
yeah,
So I mean, he's a smart kid, man. He didn't try and force it in or just stand back there patting the rock. He's like, man, they got 9 guys in coverage. I'm just run this ball, and he ran,
well,
and he did.
how about the Baker Mayfield alert, man? Over 300 yards passing. Baker Mayfield made to find himself a home in the NFL for the long term. I know Kyle Trask is right behind him, chomping at the bit, second round draft pick. But if things are going well with Baker right now, let's bake, man. Let's cook.
Well, he had a good day, but Bears are going to make a lot of quarterbacks look good this year.
And that's probably true because
When your D
Trevor
line,
Lawrence looks good.
when you can only put pressure by blitzing, you put a lot of stress on your secondary. And if you don't get there, you give up big plays. And they're trying to rush with four, and four can't get there.
Yeah, yeah. Floor's not going to get there if you blitz. You know, it's just I don't know what did Ngakwe do anything yesterday? Because of course I didn't watch the game, so I didn't get to see if Yannick Ngakwe, the defensive end they had gotten, did he get to the quarterback? Did he cause any pressure? Because that's what I thought he was brought in for. And I thought I
Yeah.
watched him play, and everywhere he's been, he's at least been disruptive.
He's not doing it consistently. But if you only have to worry about one guy on the D line, you can do things to nullify him, and that's what Tampa Bay did.
Man, how about these the Dolphins? The Dolphins is. I knew
Ooh,
the Dolphins would be a better team. We talked about in the preseason the AFC East is probably going to be the best division. Now we could probably switch that. Patriots bring up the rear to the Jets bringing up the rear after things went down there. But Miami's a team I don't think too many teams want to face. They got so much firepower.
yeah, if Tua stays healthy, they're gonna put up numbers. I just think it was great the way the game ended last night. First of all, you got Bill Belichick crying on the sideline about a helmet to helmet
At
when his
home.
guy when his guy clearly led with his helmet. Looking like his guy didn't do anything wrong. He's all upset, whining and to the referee and whatnot. And then they try that lateral to the big old lineman. and then they give him the spot for the first down. And I'm like, man, I don't think he got it. And then they review it and they're like, nope, he's short. I mean, that's just perfect, man. That was just a perfect ending. Victory formation. Let's go. Ball
Let's
game.
get out of there. I know the Patriots are really hated Bill Belichick, hated just as much as his team or even more. Someone's trying to get him out the door. I don't know if he and Robert Kraft got that good relationship now since the ring stopped coming in. But Mac Jones, I wonder if this is going to be the last year he's with the team if he doesn't get his act together. He puts up numbers, but he makes boneheaded decisions, gets these interceptions at the he could throw 3 touchdowns and that one interception would be the one that just changes the game. So it makes the overall stats look terrible, kind of like Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins puts up a lot of frivolous stats, but then he doesn't get the win. But the numbers at the end of the day, man, if he went to arbitration as a baseball player, you'd be like, wow, this guy's played pretty damn well, man. But you look at the results, like, dang, you're just not winning the way we thought we should win with a team like this. But the Dolphins, certainly a team that's going to be a pain in the butt if, and it keeps coming down to if, and it's a reality if Tua could stay healthy. As long as he can stay healthy, they're in the game. It's a two-man race now.
Right now,
East.
Right now, they might be the favorites to win the East. You know,
I think
Josh
so.
Allen's got a turnover problem. He looked better this Sunday, but I believe over the last 4 or 5 years, he has the most interceptions among quarterbacks. And you don't think about that because you think of him as one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Yep.
He was this close to getting to the Super Bowl, but Mahomes just outdid him. But that Madden curse is real.
Yeah, the Madden curse, a whole bunch of curses from there are real, right? But hey, you know, this Dolphin team being in the AFC East along with the Jets, and of course, I think that's the Jets' real rival because I remember back in the 80s when Dan Marino was there and the Jets had Al Toon and Ken O'Brien and Wesley Walker and all that stuff. I was like, okay, this is the real rivalry. This Tuna Bowl is what made New England somewhat of a rivalry with the Jets. Come on, man. And Buffalo's just in Canada, so we never really cared about them anyway. So, and they represent the AFC terribly, losing 4 in a row. Anyways, moving on to the next and probably final topic. McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey, can you be more unheralded or underrated? I mean, people know who he is. They know what he can do, but he's putting up phenomenal numbers week in and week out. Last week or yesterday, no freaking different. 116 yards on 20 carries. He still catches out of the backfield. I mean, this dude in San Francisco's winning, so of course that's going to bring attention to it, even though the Rams did play a hell of a game yesterday. But this guy's breaking 50 yarders. I think he had a 51-yarder yesterday out of the backfield. The week before, in the first game, he had another big run out of the backfield. We know how he could do it, and if he needed to catch punts, he can do that as well. Christian McCaffrey, man, possibly an MVP offensively. I don't think it's a surprise, but I don't think he's getting the respect or the credit he deserves.
It's the East Coast bias, man. The East Coast bias.
It might be an East Coast bias, man. But when he was getting, seemed like he got more attention with the Carolina Panthers, East Coast team, than he's doing with San Francisco, a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
You know how those Eastern writers can be in Eastern media outlets. He's in San Francisco. Who's watching that game? It comes on in the afternoon. If it's not the Sunday night game or the Monday night game, they may not be paying attention to it.
And someone believed that might be the reason why.
Plus you had the Jets-Cowboys game that everybody was talking about. So I'm sure a lot of people weren't even tuning in to the San Francisco game. Man, unless you got the split screen like I can, you can watch them.
Just looking at the highlights of what he's been doing. It kind of makes, if you're a football fan, it's like if we had all of this back in the day when Barry Sanders was playing, when we could just be out of the market and get a chance to see Barry. You forget about your home team, you watch Barry. But this is right now, this is not what's happening as far as people just really knowing. Everyone in fantasy football knows who he is.
That's what I was going to say. I can tell you who does appreciate him.
Fantasy football players, man. But, man, I just had to give this guy a shout-out because he does it week in and week out. I understand the injuries he's had in the past. They haven't been that much of an issue, but you're kind of waiting and seeing because this is only the second week, and there's a lot more to go, and we know how his injury history is. But, hell, this is the NFL. Everyone has an injury history. It's just a matter of how much you can tolerate. But Christian McCaffrey, certainly an MVP candidate at this moment. Yeah, just 2 games in. And finally, I guess we can talk about those Giants coming from behind yesterday against the Arizona Cardinals. But Saquon Barkley, with less than $1 million raise, goes out there, gets injured, sprains his ankle, gone for 3 weeks. The Giants just aren't that good because before the season started, we already told you about the Arizona Cardinals. We said they're on the
Oh,
clock. So we already know what kind of team they are. They're on the clock.
right.
They
That
shouldn't be
surprised
winning.
me. It looked like they were going down, and then I saw they came back and won. But you know what was funny? Did you see that Jordan Love quarterback sneak attempt?
No, no, I hadn't.
Oh man, he thought he was getting the snap, and the center didn't snap it, so he's going for the sneak. He runs it. You got to see the replay, man.
More everywhere, man.
He's like he like calls for the snap. The ball doesn't come. And he's going. He's trying to punch it in the end zone, and nobody's blocking. So he goes right up into the lineman, and they're looking like, "What the hell?" The center still had the ball.
Shades of the
I'm like,
butt fumble,
and
butt non
and
fumble.
and they blew that game. So I don't hear people dick riding Jordan Love today.
What about Detroit?
In the lines, I told you
I know
they're
you posted
overrated.
something about the
I
Detroit
told you
Lions.
they were overrated. They were lucky to win that game against the Chiefs, man. They
But,
they
yeah, they won
they
because
ain't going nowhere. I don't care. I don't care. They're overrated. They ain't going nowhere.
I still think they're a good team. They're a team that was on the ascent last year. I think they kind of picked up where they left off, still making boneheaded mistakes. It was at home. I think being in the NFC North, they have a chance to win it because right now, the Vikings are supposed to be the best team in the NFC North, and we know what Kirk Cousins can or cannot do. I think they can surprise some teams. It's going to be intriguing because I think Green Bay can also still win the NFC North, but Jordan Love is still doing a little bit of the dinking and dunking, but he's getting the wins and he's also getting his touchdowns. He's not throwing the interceptions. But yeah, Detroit, of course, you probably have more bitterness towards them. They're in your conference. They're playing your team.
Bro,
And
I don't hate Detroit. They never won anything. But
you don't look at
I
them
got
as a
no
threat
reason
at
to
all.
hate them.
You don't look
I got
like
no
a threat.
reason to hate Detroit Lions.
You don't look at them as a threat. That's probably why.
I
But
mean, they're better than the Bears. I'll give you that. I can see that. But that ain't saying nothing.
But now, all they have to be better than now are the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. And if they are, they could win that conference, win that division. So, yeah, it might be interesting. But anyway, I guess it ends there. As I said about the Giants, Saquon Barkley, ankle injury, out for 3 weeks. We have a bunch of injuries in the NFL, but that's every week anyway. We have a bunch of injuries in college football, and that's every week as well. And impactful injuries. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with another episode. And of course, there's still things to talk about because this is football season. There are 2 Monday night games tonight. And then including the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on Cleveland as Pittsburgh tries to pick up from the beating and drubbing they got at home by the 49ers last week.
Hold on. I just remembered something. I think I put him in the crosshairs. Maybe I didn't put him in the crosshairs. It might have been before the crosshairs was created for us. But Mike Dunleavy, he's bringing in Dwight Howard.
I
He
heard
knows
about that.
he knows he needs
man.
a big man, and you're bringing in Dwight Howard from overseas. He just turned 45, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how old he is. He's been out of the NBA for years.
He been putting up
But
numbers in China.
But they're saying, well, he's not on the team. We're just bringing him in as a workout. And, we bring a lot of players in as a workout. Come on, man. You're bringing him in with the hopes that he still got it. We know you're not going to bring him in just to work him out. You're really hoping he still got it because you haven't done jack shit to help your team as far as size. You got no size on that team. Don't have no championship. Chris Paul's going to get hurt. Draymond's saying he wants to win a championship for Chris Paul. But Draymond needs to go knock on Mike Dunleavy's door and say, get a fucking big man.
Well, I thought they would get Bull. I thought he would have been a nice fit for them. He has a finesse game, not that big body-wise, but he's very skillful. He had the foot problem. But, anyways, yeah, man. I saw that Dwight Howard deal, and I was like, really? Come on, man. But Dwight's been asking to get back into the NBA for a while, and they answered the call. So will he be on the team when the camp starts? And if he goes to camp, will he stick with the team? We'll find out.
I don't know. That's who you're picking up to guard Jokic and AD.
There goes the back again. Hey, we'll hit up on this tomorrow, man. But yeah, our Trav, he's biased, and this is another episode of the Sports Bag Bros podcast. Catch you tomorrow.